There are many people around the world already aware of what's going on with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. There are many allegations as to what their involvement is with the coronavirus, vaccines, and other viruses throughout the world. Tonight, July 23, 2020, Bill Gates was asked a series of questions regarding the allegations and conspiracies that people believe he and his family have been involved in. The clips you're about to see show some of the reactions that Bill had when being asked these questions. I will reveal, through body language, some of the possible answers that Bill and his co-hosts were able to give in the following video.
Yeah, the tactic we've had to use in the polio campaign is to figure out people's trust network. Is there a religious leader or a tribal leader that they trust? And then to have that religious leader, they are, sincerely a believer in the polio vaccine stopping that paralysis, that they not only speak out about that, but they set an example. In that case, it's a vaccine for children, so they give it to their own children in a very visible way. And so when we had a horrific problem with that in Nigeria, it was teaming up with those traditional leaders that eventually got rid of wild polio in all of Nigeria, which was the last place in Africa. So it's reaching out and understanding that web of trust, and it required huge effort, many years. Here, we want to convince people, at least over 80%, to take this vaccine next year. So, I hope we figure out who the influencers are.
Right. I think a lot of communities are saying right now, who are those trust leaders in our community, our society, whatever. I mean, the other thing that you hear is that there's this hesitancy, right? They'll get vaccinated, yes, but we're going to wait for the second generation of vaccines to come out because that'll be safer. What do you say to that? Any validity?
Well, when you take a vaccine, you're benefiting yourself in terms of reducing the chance you'll get sick. With all medicines, there's some risk, very small in almost all cases, but some risk you're taking, like driving a car, doing a lot of things. And you're also benefiting other people because the vaccine reduces the chance of your being a super spreader or transmitting the disease at all. And so it is a community-based thing that I hope people, looking at what the FDA has done and that there weren't shortcuts taken. There may be pressure, there may have been pressure, there may be pressure, but so far they're not doing that. They're insisting on efficacy, lots of testing in old people. And so I do think people have a tendency to say this is almost like war. We've got to help our fellow citizens. So, I think we'll get the numbers down, although when they poll right now, it's almost 40% of people have at least a little bit of hesitation.
I was reading in the New York Times, there are 16,000 Facebook posts espousing conspiracy theories about you and the virus. I've seen these things. They're liked or commented on 900,000 times. On YouTube, the top 10 videos that spread lies about you had almost 5 million views. It's also pointed out that according to Signal Labs, which is a media analysis company that tracks this, misinformation about you is the most widespread of all coronavirus falsehoods. So there's a conspiracy theory that one of our viewers asked about. I just want to play that sound.
What would you say to the fringe portions of the public, like conspiracy theorists, that seem to think that you're somehow responsible for the outbreak?
There's also a conspiracy theory that you're pushing vaccines because you're going to inject people with a tracking device when they get the vaccine. It's all part of a so-called globalist plot to control the world. QAnon folks are, which is actually a group that's been targeting me as well lately. They're claiming falsely that I'm somehow connected with Jeffrey Epstein and global cabalists of sex traffickers. It's insane. What do you say to people who believe this stuff? Because I'm sure you are inundated by people direct messaging me just insane stuff.
Yeah, the combination of having social media spreading things that are very titillating, to have this pandemic where people are uncertain and they prefer to have a simple explanation. It's meant that these things are really millions of messages a day, and people like myself and Dr. Fauci become the target. Often the clever thing they do, our foundation has given more money to buy vaccines to save lives than any group. So you just turn that around. You say, okay, we're making money and we're trying to kill people with vaccines or by inventing something. And at least it's true, we're associated with vaccines, but you actually, sort of flipped the connection that we have there. I hope it doesn't create vaccine hesitancy. I hope, this whole story of innovation that's going on, that we do get the benefit of that. It's really the only good news I'm bringing you today, is that the diagnostic, therapeutic, and vaccine innovation, these amazing private sector companies, without the coordination you would have liked, but they are doing it. And I do think people on the therapeutic side will be surprised. And, these are well-meaning people. This is a time where people are doing great work. And, so I hope the conspiracy stuff dies down. It's really, the numbers kind of blow my mind. And it's not just the fringe people that you would normally think of.
It's not at all. I mean, I can tell you, I get stuff from people who seem, they have lives, they have families. I don't know if they genuinely believe this, or they've just been misled. But, and for me, it's, they claim I was on Jeffrey Epstein's airplane and going to his island with Tom Hanks, or I mean, just insane, crazy stuff. Do you think, I know internet companies are looking at this. Do you wish that they would play a role in taking stuff down which is just demonstrably false? Because it does have real world it does have real world impact on vaccines, or a nut showing up to a pizza parlor in Washington D.C. with a gun.
Yeah, in some cases they are taking things down. It's a bad combination, a pandemic and social media, and people looking for very simple explanation. Who's the bad guy here? And a lot of that's been connected to politics, more in the U.S. than in other locations. And, of course, vaccines weren't popular with everybody even before this all started. So I'm a big believer in getting the truth out, and but it's kind of not as titillating to say, Cooper is innocent. That's not as exciting. You don't forward that to quite as many people as you do the accusation.
Yeah.
Sometimes the misinformation travels faster than the virus, it seems. Let's see if we can get to another question. This one is coming from a doctor in Arizona who writes this. Our focus, and rightfully so, has been on the current situation fighting the spread. How much time and resources have been employed to research post-COVID health complications? And what specific health challenges, complications are you most concerned about? Bill, is this something that you've thought about or looked into?
Well, certainly our foundation has a lot of biologists, because seeing how this disease progresses, that gives us the clues to which therapeutics are going to stop the disease. And like many things, like masks, we're smarter today than we were 4 or 5 months ago. There's an element that's the lungs, but it's broad inflammation and a lot of clots. There's an element that's autoimmune, about 20% of the cases, particularly the younger cases. And so we're coming up with diagnostics that differentiate the course of the disease. And then, one of the drugs, the only one other than remdesivir that's really been proven, is dexamethasone, that our foundation was involved in. That's for that inflammation stage. So it's the late the late stage of disease. So these understandings are coming. I get, journal articles, 4 or 5 a day that, I don't read every word of, but scientists are doing a good job getting a sense of where we need to intervene. Early stage disease, it's clear. Antivirals, antibodies, cutting down the viral load, that helps a lot. As you get to later stage disease, the virus actually isn't the problem anymore. It's the cascade of events, mostly connected to clotting in the immune system. And so, part of the reason the death rate is down is we know to use ventilators less. They use anticoagulants more. They use oxygen earlier. They look at the pulse ox. So the medical profession is getting smarter every week, and eventually they'll be armed with the amazing therapeutics.
Good question from Cameron from Virginia, which reads, what lessons have you learned from COVID-19 that'll influence how you allocate future funding for pandemic prevention?
Well, the goal in 2015, when a lot of people in the global health community, including myself, spoke out, was to have practice that we would say, okay, if you want diagnostics, what do you do? Well, the answer is you get the commercial labs to ramp up. But in the US, they actually put a roadblock in front of them, made it harder at first. And CDC had limited capacity and even wasn't able to deliver on that. So just like you do war games, getting ready involves going through the scenarios. We will invest, and I know the US government, other governments will, in having vaccine platforms that get us very rapid results. Likewise, next time we'll be able to scale up diagnostics 10 times faster than this time. And antivirals and antibodies, we'll be able to do those more quickly. So
you think we'll learn the lesson?
It's sad that it took this, these deaths, the economic pain, the divisiveness that, we still aren't sure how quickly it'll end. But the R&D priority and the potential to solve these things is absolutely there. And that's why I was excited in 2015 that even if tens of billions had gone into these things, this is exactly the kind of thing that could have been stopped before it did significant damage.
You do think, so these lessons you think will be remembered, because it does seem like at times we have a short attention and short memory when it comes to this. Do you think it'll be remembered, or will they, do you think, fade away as this pandemic fades away?
Well, this one will be remembered. And, if it happens in your generation, the priority of this funding, I'm already seeing big changes in how people think about this. Medical science, as you know, actually is moving at a very good clip. So things like heart disease and cancer, there's exciting improvements there. There's some tough things like diabetes and Alzheimer's, but even those are going well. And our foundation on infectious diseases, we even talk about malaria eradication as a thing this generation can get done. So the understandings are improving, the tools will be there. A bioterrorist epidemic is more difficult because they'll design a pathogen that's designed to evade the tools that you have, whereas nature isn't intentionally serving up things that go beyond what you're ready for.
Is this just something that is always going to be with coronavirus, that this is something that's always going to be with us, and COVID-19 particularly, and that we'll just have better therapeutics, better treatment of it, better testing for it, and a more effective vaccine or vaccines that will help prevent us from getting infected, but it's always going to be out there?
Basically, yes. There is a disease, smallpox, that we completely eradicated, and it's amazing. I was looking at the flu data. The flu's down in the southern hemisphere now. They are seeing dramatically less flu than ever because they took the steps to stop coronavirus that also tend to stop flu infection. So it is incredible. Which diseases are worth driving to zero or not is always a question. It's very expensive to get to zero. For polio and smallpox, for those diseases, it makes a lot of sense. But we'll have crossover diseases for a long time, and we just have to catch them early. before they go exponential. SARS, was tragic, but in a very minor set of numbers. Ebola, we took our polio team, and all the personnel in Africa went after that and stopped it from getting out of the 3 countries. And so the numbers there also were not that dramatic. So it should not be a dramatic burden on human health if we're alert. You always worry that it'll start in a country with a very bad health system. So you worry about Africa. Here with China, even though you will debate how quickly they moved, at least once they really saw it, they had the capacity to share the virus and take dramatic steps, which when Ebola breaks out in Africa or other pathogens, it can fester a bit longer before it's clear.
Well, you leave us with some hope tonight of better therapeutics, better testing by the end of this year, and then vaccines in multiple stages. That's something makes me hopeful, and which I wasn't when we started this night. So I appreciate you being with us as always. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks.
Our global town hall continues in a moment.